Well, Edward Isaacs is the president of the Union of Jewish Students, joins us now. Thank you so much for doing so. Thank you for your time. Talk to me, if you will, about the conversation that was in Downing Street behind you.
Listen, the Prime Minister was very clear that anti-Semitism has no place on campuses. For the last 7 months, Jewish students have endured a torrent of abuse, of anti-Semitic hatred on campus. Jewish students have received death threats, Jewish students have been victims of physical assault, and so much more. And universities need to be places where Jewish students are included like every other student, but sadly that's not the case right now.
Considering the backdrop you've just described, how supported, how hopeful do you feel as a result of the conversations you've just been part of?
I'm very grateful that Vice-Chancellors took the time to come to Downing Street today, but ultimately we need to see any commitments made today followed by swift action. Jewish students need to see action, and it's only decisive action by Vice-Chancellors to ensure that Jewish students are included in campus life that will ensure that Jewish students have a future on campus.
Talk to me, if you will, about your perspective on the balance of the freedom of expression and the freedom of speech, and also, like you say, ensuring that students also feel protected in and around those areas.
We totally respect the right to protest. Jewish students love to protest as much as any other student. But let me be very clear. Language emanating from many of these encampments across campus, including quotes to globalise the Intifada, are not meaningless political statements. These are statements which are calling for direct violence, and this needs to be stamped out.
One group that was not present during these conversations was the National Union of Students. The government broke ties with that body several years ago after repeated issues of anti-Semitism. The NUS has apologised. It's working on an action plan. But in more recent weeks at the conference, a breakout group of delegates called for the break-off of ties with yourselves. Now, that wasn't endorsed by the NUS, but that discussion happened nonetheless. What's your reaction to that?
We have a proud 100-year history of being the representative voice of Jewish students on campus, and that will continue no matter what a number of nefarious student activists say.
You describe them there as nefarious student activists. I'm sure they would challenge that description. They also challenged the fact that they weren't part of the discussions today. Should they have been so?
Listen, the focus of today was about the anti-Semitism that Jewish students are facing. It's Jewish students that are facing the death threats. It's Jewish students that are facing these toxic climates of fear on campus. And we are very clear, universities need to draw their red lines, and universities need to take decisive action to support Jewish students.
Once you've left Downing Street this morning, what message will you be taking back to your members, to your students, to the wider student body? And what should they take from the fact that these discussions are taking place?
I hope Jewish students are reassured about how seriously government takes this issue, but Jewish students will be looking to their vice-chancellors, to the leaders of the universities that they study at, to see decisive action. So that will be the test of how productive this morning was.
From your perspective, though, despite the fact that vice-chancellors were in the room, despite the fact that they were having that conversation, do you think they really have the power, the clout, the tools at their disposal to try and achieve what you're calling for, what you say Jewish students need?
Government were very clear that they will give Vice-Chancellors the tools that they need to tackle anti-Semitism on campus. So the onus is now on Vice-Chancellors to take that invitation with open arms and take decisive action to support Jewish students.
And what would you like to see physically? Is that the removal of encampments if they exist? Is that the arrests and prosecutions if required? How far do you think this should go in ensuring that safe environment that you're calling for?
We're taking each campus on a case-by-case basis, but what we are clear about is that there are red lines that need to be established by universities. Calls for violence against Jewish students are totally unacceptable and have no place on campus, and we will be resolute with universities and vice-chancellors that they need to take decisive action.
Edward Isaacs joining us this morning in a sunny Downing Street. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.